they were like, hey, we're going to be flying you guys out to Hollywood. You're going to meet our TV executives. And we were just like, wait, Hollywood? Like, we're going, wait, say that again?
Today, we're thrilled to welcome David and Chenoa Rivera, a couple who spent over a decade transforming small starter flips into a real estate empire of single-family rentals, Airbnbs, and apartment complexes. While you may know them from HGTV's Rustic, Rehab, what the cameras didn't capture was their resolve when the devastating Camp Fire ravaged their hometown of Paradise, California. Rather than retreating from tragedy, they channeled their expertise and resources into rebuilding their beloved community. Today's conversation goes beyond real estate to explore something far more valuable: how to cultivate the resilience needed to transform life's greatest challenges into opportunities for impact, growth, and deeper purpose. All right, you guys, it's good to see you both again. And before we dive in, kind of want to know a little bit more about you guys, but I want you to answer for each other if you can. So I want to ask you who each of you are on a Saturday morning. So if you were to strip away all the accolades and all these successes and whatnot, who is David, who is Chenoa to you that only you know? And then maybe Chenoa, you can answer for David, who is he to you?
So my wife, Chenoa, she's a phenomenal mother. She's a very spiritual person, and she has an amazing drive in business. And on the weekends, we just, we love hanging out with our kids. We play with our kids all the time. We're usually doing sports with them over the weekends. And, we're just taking every day one step at a time and also enjoying life. And I think Chenoa does a great job of just always, she's always saying tomorrow's never promised. So let's enjoy today, and let's really spend that time with our family and kids and live it up the best that you can that day.
That's awesome.
Yes. Okay. David on a Saturday? Gosh. Same. I think that David's an amazing dad, and I love that meme going around. My biggest flex in life is that I married, an amazing father and partner. But he's always, I guess I would say definitely we're in the coaching season of business. So if David's always coaching, we do a lot of activities with our kids, playing sports, swimming, tag. We just start kind of got a pickleball court set up. So our kids are very active and busy. So there's really not a lot of downtime or relaxation. But David's usually on a weekend, just whether it's a household thing that needs to get addressed, or it's maybe on a Sunday, it's all right, let's do laundry. Let's everybody pitch in and clean up the house and, take care of that stuff. And then we'll go out and play and ride scooters. You'll see David a lot outside playing basketball with the kids or riding scooters, throwing a baseball, and just working out as well. We always work out and bringing the kids along for the ride.
I love that. How did you two meet, and what were your first impressions of each other?
So I guess I kind of like to say that fate kind of brought us together, because we literally met at, I guess it was a restaurant, maybe more bar-like. We call it kind of an extension of college. So we say we met in college, but maybe it was a little more on the outskirts of college. And we were both there at this bar, and David was getting ready to leave, and he was up on these stairs. And I was down kind of out by the dance floor with some girlfriends, and we just kind of locked eyes. And he told his buddy hey, just wait a minute, I'm going to go talk to this girl. And we just kind of walked towards each other and started talking. And he had a list of things what college are you going to college?
I went down the checklist.
He went down the checklist, he says, and we checked all the boxes, and then we exchanged phone numbers, and it kind of just unfolded from there.
Yep.
Wow. So you guys hit it off right away.
Pretty much.
Yeah, I like to say I kind of manifested him, because about a year or two prior, I went on a family vacation to Maui, where David's from. And I was just kind of walking on the ocean, and I was like, oh, I just can't wait till my, Prince Charming comes into my life kind of thing. And then threw that out into the universe, and then got my Aloha Maui sticker put on the back of my Honda Accord.
Nice.
And when I met David and he was from Maui, it was all right, there you go.
Love that.
For sure.
I love that. So awesome. It sounds like, she checked all the boxes. He checked all the boxes. Both of you guys are getting along really well. When was that moment like when you said, yeah, I want to spend the rest of my life with this person?
You just kind of know, like, the thing is, after you are with that person, you're spending time with that person, it's a feeling of being comfortable with them. And it's a feeling of being able to just say whatever it is, and you both laugh at it, or you both have similar interests in every single thing you talk about. Or you go out for dinner and you're dressed in all red, and all of a sudden she comes out of the room and she's dressed in all red. And you're like, how can this possibly be? Like, she likes all the stuff I like. She wears all the stuff I'm going to wear. Like, we're always like matching. It's just, you just know. So that was one of the things that definitely, when we first met, we just both knew that like we were going to spend the rest of our lives with each other for sure.
Amazing.
Yeah. It just clicks. It works. It's easy. It doesn't take effort, to be in the relationship. And there's so many amazing qualities David has. I think we like even fall more in love each time as we grow older because, we get to like go and enjoy each other. We get to see each other as parents and travel together, have new experiences, and then grow on, building a real estate empire that we're always attacking, kind of thing. So we're riding the roller coasters together.
Definitely.
How long have you been together?
Since 2005.
Amazing.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And we got married in 2008. So we're trucking along.
Yep.
Yeah, you are. I love it.
That's great.
Were you both, because you have so many similarities and compatibilities, were you both aligned in your vision early on for family and life, or did that evolve?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think we both were in college, which that's what I loved about Chenoa. When we first met, we were both looking at finishing off our degree and using our degree to provide eventually one day and have a family. And so as we grew and as we got older and as we started to get more mature, we realized, okay, now we want different things and we want to be our own bosses. We want to be entrepreneurs, and that both of us felt the same way. So every single time we got into a new stage in our life, we always were aligned with what we wanted. And so it just has always been great to just take that step up and move forward.
Yeah. Now, I know when you were in college, you said you bought your first house at basically 18 and you were a young mom at that time, and you house hacked your way essentially through college. How did you get the insight to do that at such a young age? And did that start leading you to flipping?
I think it did. I think the fact that it was almost like a survival method back for me because I was, I had two little girls and I was going to college and I just I wanted to keep the house. And so it was like, I'll get my brother to move in or, close friends, people I knew or people that were recommended to me that were trusted. And so I think it was honestly a survival method, but it definitely got our feet wet for, going into real estate and keeping. I think the biggest thing too is that my mother taught me to dream big. And she was the one that said, oh, you're going to have, young children, you got to get a house. And thankfully the timing kind of aligned because it was at the point where you could buy a house for little, it was like stated income basically. So I guess I took advantage of the situation that I had and sold my first house, made $70,000 and then bought a bigger home. And then eventually David moved in and we kicked out a few roommates, although his brother and his brother's wife moved in, or at the time girlfriend. But so it was a fun ride, for the moment. It served its purpose. And
yeah. So, okay. So you made some money off of that first one and now you're starting to get the taste of hey, this is pretty awesome, right? What if we scaled this? I'm going to think big, right? David, were you on board right away on this? Or you guys have your college degrees by this point and they're not in flipping, I assume. How does that all transition?
Yeah. No, we were getting our degrees and finishing, and we both went into the fields that we were going into. I actually got a medical device sales degree. I love medicine. I was always drawn to the hospital, but having kids young, I was going to medical school would have been a lot, and taking them. And I look back, it's hard to do both, right? When medicine's your primary focus and the hours are long. And even as a medical device rep, I was in surgeries for 12 to 15 hours plus driving. So it was a lot. But David graduated. He got a sales degree at a casino, or sales position at a casino locally. And I think we both were happy for the moment with our situations. And then David read this book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Everybody reads it. And he like literally came home and was like, or my aunt had given it to him, and he was like, after reading it, it was like, we gotta change things up. Like we're not gonna live like this. You're not even gonna be working. Like, here's the situation. This is what we're doing. And what I love about David is like when he commits to something, and I see this in my children also, in our children, it's like he goes for it and he's going all in. He's gonna master it and make it happen. And you could bet your life on it because it's gonna happen. It might not happen overnight. It might not be easy, but he's committed. He's all in.
Sure.
Yeah.
100%.
That's fantastic. I'm just picturing this. Like, now we're flipping. Okay, so you're this young couple, you have your degrees, you're improving your neighborhood, you've now flipped a couple homes. HGTV comes knocking. That must have been pretty exciting. Can you walk us through how that came about?
Yeah. We used to watch HGTV all the time, right? I feel like it was just that era where everybody was watching those shows, and it was a nightly thing or daily thing, weekend thing also. And one time I just like went to the computer and I was looking online, and there was like some ad like, oh, if you invest as a family, and I was like, shoot, all right, here's our postcard of our family vacation, our Christmas photo card. And I wrote up a little blog about us, what we do, where we live, what's going on, and our love for traveling and fixing up homes. And it wasn't until like maybe 6 to 9 months later, I got like a call out of the blue, and I kind of thought it was like almost a joke, like what are the odds? And it just kind of progressed. They called and they'd ask for some stuff, and I'm like telling David, we're like, okay, not really truly believing it. And then then they made us go to like Home Depot and say, oh, here's I chose this tile because it brings out the this characteristic of the house, and we had to tell ourselves, like showing ourselves on TV or on a camera, and it just progressed from that.
Yeah.
And then the phone call we got to Hollywood.
Yeah. 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 We literally, they were like, hey, we're going to be flying you guys out to Hollywood. You're going to meet our TV executives. And we were just like, wait, Hollywood? Like, we're going, wait, say that again? So I remember we get there, and I remember we get to the airport. Someone's got our last name on the thing. We get into an SUV. They take us to the production place. And I remember we get in this small little business room, and there's like 10 TV executives, and they're like, we're going to put you guys through. We're going to do a pilot on you guys. We're going to be filming you guys for 6 months. And we're going to be basically, looking at everything that you guys do and flipping at this particular house, and we're going to film your life. And so your whole life's going to change. And so we're like,
okay.
It's just one of those things where you're just like, you're not expecting that, but then you're just like, okay, let's roll with the punches. Let's go. And, so we ended up filming for 6 months, and that was quite a process, because when you first are being filmed and you've never been in front of a camera, it's definitely something you got to get used to. And it's definitely, even though you might know real estate, it's a whole different world when you're being filmed to be able to talk about real estate and articulate and just all these different things that come with being in front of a camera, especially for a camera that shows to millions of viewers around the world. So, it was definitely quite the experience doing the pilot. And then after the pilot finished, we probably went like
it was 6 months, because I had a baby, our youngest, in December, and I was like, there's no way, like, I'm not gonna do anything in like a month or two. Like, there's just no way. So I was like, maybe 6 months. And then when she turned 6 months old, literally like to the day, they're like, hey, we want to keep going and we want to do a series. It's going to be 8 houses in a 6-month period. So it was going to be busy.
Now you had to flip 8 houses in 6 months. And it's one thing if you're not being filmed and you're flipping 8 houses and you have the contractors and you have the systems in place, that's one thing. But when you have to run the business and do the filming, that's a whole nother monster. Yeah. So we were like truly blessed and excited, but we knew like it was going to be a lot of work extra work that we were going to have to do.
Yeah. I mean, great experience. We made some great friendships along the way with the people that came in because we saw them like every single day and they knew our families. And thankfully, we had somebody that could step up. And one of my older daughters was still at home. And so she could help out with driving and, you know, taking care of the little ones. And so it kind of all worked, but it was definitely a period of like pure chaos.
Yeah.
For sure.
So I don't know if it was a blessing in disguise that things kind of played out the way they played, but it was an awesome opportunity experience. And I think just kind of fun to have that added to your resume, right?
Totally.
For sure.
You know, we did one episode with HGTV, and it was for the show Hawaii Life. And it was, you know, like, which house are they going to choose? This one, or this one kind of thing. And it was, a lot of it was staged. And you guys know a lot of this, right? But like, we had to pretend so many times, like walking through this place, oh, we should get this one or we should get this one. And we ended up like, our episode was like, we already owned the unit that we were going to buy. We had already renovated the unit that we were going to buy. So they wanted us to talk about like, well, what don't you like about this unit? I was like, I love this unit. I'm not going to tell them anything. Like, no. So like, but you know, that whole process, like just filming that 22-minute episode or however long it is, was like 3 days worth of these cameras following you around. So I imagine 6-8 months, that's a lot. And then plus the logistics of like you, like having to pretend on camera, like, I think we should choose this, or like, or having those dramatic moments where like, no, we shouldn't do that. We should do this. And, you know, getting in those kind of like, you know, little lovers quarrels over what you wanting to put online. Right. And it's all for the show, like to add to the drama to it.
Yeah.
But like that show, like you started filming this, you recorded the episodes, and then I think the campfire started like right as one of the episodes was airing, right? Like as one of the last episodes. And I know like that was an insane fire, like very similar to what we had out here on Maui.
Yeah,
right?
very similar.
Like thousands of structures gone, almost 100 people died. Like, how did that affect your business, and how did you guys pivot through that time?
Yeah. It definitely like, it was just like a drastic, like almost like, it's like when like the world kind of slows down, you know, I think as a younger adult, you know, like 9/11 situation where it just felt like all of a sudden it was like a standstill for a minute. That's the best way I can kind of describe it is, you know, like you get up one morning and all of a sudden like everything's different. And we left, and thankfully our son was at a school in Chico. So I left earlier that day, and David happened to be meeting, we had a nanny that was going to come to our house. So he happened to stay home and not have to like, cause usually he's out like up in Upper Paradise and Magalia. So he would have been like way out of the way driving, but he just, for some reason that day, he didn't like, the nanny was coming to our house and my aunt was calling that morning and like, oh, I think there's a fire. Cause it started pretty early, like at 6 a.m. So by the time I did drop off for Kalani, it was already like a couple hours, you know, into the day or whatever. And my aunt just kept calling like, you know, why don't you have the nanny watch your youngest at, you know, my mom's house in Chico, just out of the way, just be safe. And so I told David, I'm like, okay, let's just shift everything to Chico. And so we kind of followed suit with that, but we left and David left, and it was like, we didn't come home for, I mean, I think we got to see our house maybe at least a month after. We only knew that it was still standing was because there was a police officer that we were friends with, and he was able to go through a few weeks after. But like when we left, it said like fire break on all of our windows. We just assumed our house was gone. And then it just, like I said, everything kind of stands still. And then I think I don't know if it's an adrenaline or something just kicks in and says, okay, like, what are we going to do? You know, how do we react to the situation? When we found out our house did survive, we just felt like it was Dave always says, like, we start our business in paradise. We're going to keep continuing to build our life in paradise, and our house must have been saved for some reason. We don't know. And so we were just meant to be and stay here. So we had some fire damage. Our contractors came in and fixed it pretty quickly. We were able to come home, like, I think 4 or 5 months after the fire. And we just pivoted. We were like, how do we know how to do what we do. We have a skill. Now, how do we change it to a different location? So we ventured out to other areas in the surrounding communities to try to just move the ball forward and just keep going.
How did your kids handle the stresses of the fire? And did that bring you closer as a family? And now you're kind of out of that chaos of filming too.
Yeah.
Different kind of chaos.
Yeah, different chaos. Yeah, I think it took a while, honestly, as parents, to have trust, because once you realize the damage a fire can happen, I feel like we've had so many, there's brush fires all the time that pop up and it's nothing. But when you realize the devastation that it could cause, then you start to question, do my kids know how to get out of a window if they have to, or in the room? And then your trust and faith of protecting them feels a little bit less secure. And so it took a while for that to kind of just be more at ease again with where we live, and that we're going to have this happen often, possibly, but not to that extent. And I think for the most part, because they didn't have to necessarily drive through a burning town, some children and families literally were stuck and, going at a snail pace and trying to get out. And I couldn't imagine coming back up if they had experienced that. But for the most part, they were either an infant driving down the hill, with David. So David carried the load for that. And then Kalani was already down at school. So that, it didn't affect him as much. They are hypersensitive to it a little bit, but not to where it's really devastating them.
Good.
Yeah.
What made you guys want to rebuild there? Just because you took that symbol of your home being left there?
Yeah, it would have been easy to pivot and be like, this town, we're
Go to
gone.
Maui?
Let's move.
Yeah, actually a lot of people in our neighborhood moved away or just, sold their lots. To answer your question, I think it was just the fact that a lot of our business started right here in our backyard over here. And so we were just like, you know what, we gotta do something that's going to bring hope. And the first new build that we did, we actually did it out of it was made out of non-combustible materials. So it was specifically made for fires. So our first new build, we made it out of a concrete house. And it was just one of those things where you're and it's kind of like the real estate roller coaster. It's no matter what happens, you just keep riding it. And even if things go south, you still just got to get back up and start going north. So it was just one of those things where you had all these lots in Paradise, and it was just okay, well, we're not doing as much as we were doing with residential flips. Let's start doing new development with these new lots. And that's what we transitioned into.
Hey family, real quick. If you'd rather watch your content, head over to Our Family Invests on YouTube. You'll find this episode and all our episodes over there. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your takeaways in the comments. Now, back to the show.
Sure. A new development requires a whole lot more capital too. So,
Oh yeah.
So is this when you started leveraging other people's money to kind of make a win-win for yourselves and investors?
Yeah, so when we first started out, for a lot of the residential flips that we did, they're mostly joint ventures. But after the fires, where we kind of pivoted and said, you know what, let's just raise capital and let's just create our own company, use that capital, pay a private money, and then use that capital to deploy and do new development.
How do you guys keep that work-life balance?
Work and life. Is that different?
Yeah.
I think that luckily, I think the positives with being an entrepreneur is that we make our own schedule and we can set our times accordingly. We work really well together. We know kind of what our tasks are within the business, and we communicate all day long, about things as they are happening. So that really allows our business to strive, I guess, and just continue to keep moving the ball forward in that aspect. And then with the children, it's just kind of it's a little bit of a pivot, but they grew up knowing this world that we are in. They grew up going to look at houses. We don't want to go see another house again. They might own a boat and live on an ocean or something, because I don't know if they really want, want a house or be around, a bunch of people or looking through old dilapidated homes. So, but I think that we just kind of try to focus when the kids are out of school and they're home, and on the weekends, it's like our priority is them. And when they're not, when they are at school and they're aware, and we focus on the work stuff. So we try to kind of, as much as you can, separate it, but they also understand and know. And I think we walk through the process like, this is what we do for a living. And so they know and understand. So they're kind of a part of it. It's as like a family unit versus it being separate.
Yeah.
So I think that kind of helps us keep it all moving as smoothly as it possibly can.
Yeah. What are some ways to stay aligned as a couple and as business partners? Because not all couples get the privilege to work with their spouse.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we make it a priority to communicate often, and we have a lot of like quality time together. So I think that we are the presentation or CEO of our business and our house, children, and everything. So we do kind of like, as long as we're on the same page, then we can tackle and take on anything. And so I think that's important for us, like whether it's date nights or just having time alone or sitting out in our hot tub at night after the kids have gone to bed, and just appreciating where we are and communicating. I think that's our biggest
Absolutely.
strength for really, you don't go to work and get better by like not focusing and, mastering your skill. And I think it's just as important to master your skill as being a married couple along with, yourself, but working your unit together.
Yeah.
It takes work.
So
Definitely.
I imagine that, the transition after the fires you've had to build a different team since then. Is that pretty fair? And how did you decide to do that, or how are you able to structure that?
The operation, as far as like the contractors go, that all stayed the same. They, luckily for them, they were skilled enough that when we started doing new builds, they could do new builds. And they had a lot of relationships with different trades and stuff. So for us to go into new builds with our current contractors that we were using before the fire, there wasn't any like changeover with that. It was more the changeover with our business partners, with the joint ventures. We just started getting away from joint ventures, and we went more towards Chenoa and I's company, raising private capital and using that private capital to deploy into me and Chenoa's company.
What do you wish that more couples knew about the entrepreneurial journey, especially when working together?
Choose the right partner.
Definitely. Absolutely. That's number one. I mean, if you don't choose the right partner and your couple is your business partner, you're never going to reach your goals. You're never going to be, I'm not saying you never, but it's going to be hard to be successful. Who you choose as your partner is definitely, it make or breaks where you go in life, periods.
I think that you have to learn how to embrace failure. Like, I feel like people just like stay stuck because they are so afraid of making a mistake. And I mean, we have so many lists of mistakes, right? I mean, setbacks. And I think people just need to like look at it. It's not like a failure. It's a learning experience. So you just have to jump in and take action, and obviously like use a mentor or somebody to help guide you, keep the bumpers on, I guess. So your failure or your doesn't kill you. But I think that you have to embrace those moments because they are constantly happening, and you constantly have to use them as teaching moments to guide you to where you want to go.
If you have fear as an entrepreneur, then you've made it, because you're doing something and it might make you think like, okay, well, gosh, I can't do this. But the reality is you're in that position, and that situation has come about because you were able to take action and do something. So it's kind of reverse psychology, but that's the biggest thing about being an entrepreneur is, it's going to be up and down roller coasters. There's going to be times where you're making good money. There's going to be times when you're not making good money. There's going to be all kinds of obstacles that come up, but you just have to remember that, it's those situations where the failures come that you're going to be better as a unit to get through things. And you're going to learn from those experiences to get through other things that come up in the future.
Yeah. Do you see any life lessons that keep recreating or teaching you something?
I think like a continuous one that I've had, I think probably for a long time that I can remember, is just really trusting the process. I mean, if you have ultimate faith that you are going to land on your 2 feet And you do, because if you look back the last 5 years or the last 10 years, or, it's like you bet on yourself and you created a life so you can continue to create it. So like, why would that all of a sudden change when you're going from, this level to that level? You might it might, slide down a little bit, but I think just having ultimate faith that you're continually learning and growing and putting one foot in front of the other, you're going to be successful.
Yeah. I think that's a really good point, especially in today's real estate market. A lot of people that listen to our podcast are more on the real estate investing side. And it's like, we had such a good run up for so many years and everybody made pretty good money that was in that space. Well, now it's a little different. And,
Right.
The rules have changed. But I think if you take the long-term approach and you still double down and you still bet on yourself and you still have the fundamentals, you're going to be okay, right?
Absolutely,
We're just in a
100%.
season. Yeah. I have a lot of like weird routines and habits that I do on a daily basis that kind of keep me pointed in the right direction. But I'm curious if you guys have any routines or habits that you've implemented in your day-to-day lives that have kind of impacted your personal growth the most.
Yeah. I mean, I think working out has probably been our most consistent thing that we're both super committed to. Our health. I mean, you can have all the money in the world, right? But if you are not healthy and your body's not moving the way it needs to be, and then that money is irrelevant to anything. So I think that's our number one priority focus. And I also think that like when you're lifting hard or strength training or doing stuff when you don't feel like doing it, it's exactly how it feels sometimes in work, right? Or, even parenting or whatever. Like sometimes you're just like, I don't want to deal with this, but you just got to keep moving forward. So I feel like it's also a mindset that is very similar. And then for me, I will meditate daily. I love it. It keeps me grounded, and I feel like the right meditation will come to me. And I think just kind of like, it kind of just makes me in this little happy bubble.
Yeah.
I mean, I think for us, like reading regularly, we're pretty consistent with our habits. And then tracking our habits, just like, Mr. Turner says, taking accountability for that. And then another thing is like dinners. Like we always know what's going to be for dinner. And that just seems to be a routine thing that, if you don't have to think about it and you just know what's going to be for dinner and it's done, it solves a lot of issues like later in the evening or whatnot.
100% meal planning. Do you guys cook together or do you take turns?
We do it. We kind of do it together. Like if I cook, then he'll do the dishes, vice versa,
Nice.
kind of thing. So it's a joint effort. Or he'll play with the kids while I clean up the kitchen, kind of thing. So
Yeah.
we
That's
do
awesome.
together. Yeah.
One of the benefits of social media is that I can go on you guys' Instagram and kind of get a feel for who you guys are, even though I haven't talked to you in a while. And I will tell you that since I pulled up your Instagram the other day, I have really wanted a bagel sandwich, like a really good bagel sandwich. So tell me about the bagel business and how did that come about, and like what's going on with this?
So the funny thing, so yes, we own the only bagel shop in Chico, California, and it's been there for over 40 years. We bought it in 2020, and we bought it through, I was actually buying the owner's real estate portfolio. He had I think he had 25 units in multifamily, and we worked out a deal. I bought the 25 units, and he goes, well, the only thing I haven't sold you is my bagel shop. And I'm like, bagel shop? And he's like, yeah, you got to come down. It's the best bagels in town. Like, you got to try these bagels. They are phenomenal. So I said, well, I don't really want to get in the restaurant food business. Like, not my thing. I'm all real estate. But sure enough, I went down there. I love food. Being from Hawaii, I love food.
Yeah.
So I went down there. I tried the bagel, and I kid you not, that was the best bagel I've ever had in my entire life.
Wow.
The process, you can just like, when you have a Subway bread, like the dough and everything, it's not the same. Like this, they make it from scratch.
Wow.
The bagels are made from scratch. And when you bite into that bagel, it tastes so good. And he goes, it's been in business for 40 years. We already have a manager. We already have a whole team of employees. Everything's all set. I'm too old. I'm done. I want to get out. I want to just retire my wife in Southern California. I don't want to do this anymore. So I'll be willing to work out a deal with you. And I said, okay, keep talking. So we kind of worked out basically a deal where was almost like a real estate deal, like a seller carry type deal, where he's like, I'll let you basically manage the business for 2 months. I'll let you keep the profits. And after those 2 months, if you really want to buy it and keep it, then I'll let you have it. Me and Chenoa went down there for 2 months and the profits were good. And we were just like, well, I mean, I guess we're going to be eating bagels the rest of our life. So let's do this.
It's a good lunch spot for us.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so how do you comp the only bagel shop in Chico?
I know, right?
So here's the cool part. So the money that we made in those 2 months, I did some research on an SBA loan, and we have a good relationship with the commercial bank that did a lot of our multifamilies, and interest rates were really low at that time. And so we were able to work it out where those 2 months that we owned it, we took that money and used that for the down payment. And then, so we didn't come out of pocket with anything. Yeah. All that money came from the business. And then we basically have a 10-year note, and 10 years, the business is completely paid off. Wow. So we were just
pretty cool.
This is just like how we do some off-market real estate deals anyways. So why not get a bagel shop that has the best bagels in all of California?
Yeah.
Our oldest daughter manages it and runs it. So it's actually it's pretty awesome.
That's amazing.
It's a little family business, and everybody kind of knows, to go there and stuff. So, which is great. And I think it just embeds us more into the community as well, which is awesome. And, now it's like, what other business can we buy?
Yeah.
Who are we supplying bagels to? Is there a coffee shop? That's
right.
on my radar.
I love that. That's actually super cool. I'm totally with you, David. I would really flinch at owning a restaurant or anything like that. That is not my forte, though I love to eat.
Yeah.
But if a deal like that fell in my lap, I don't think I could pass it up either.
Right.
No? Wow. All right. Well, I do want to start wrapping this up because I want to be respectful of your time. But I want to ask you guys, who are 3 people or books or places that inspire you?
I for real estate, I really liked reading the Wealthy Code. I don't know if you guys have read that before. What I really like about that one, and it taught me, was that, you hear a lot of real estate, a lot of guys buy stuff just for cash flow, or other guys buy stuff, just for the equity. And it's an appreciation play down the road. What I liked about the Wealthy Code is, and I don't know why I'm blanking on his name right now, but what I liked about the Wealthy Code was the fact that he would tell you to buy properties that have cash flow and have that equity. So no matter what down the road, even if you have a little bit of cash flow and you have the equity, you're winning on both sides. And we've kind of always used that motto in every single asset that we bought in real estate. So no matter what, we always have equity. And so no matter what, it's always cash flowing. So I really, really like the Wealthy Code. And I like the fact that, he didn't say, I want you to just buy cash flow, properties or just buy appreciation. No, buy something that has both characteristics. So then you can always be successful in it.
Yeah. That's good.
There's a good book, The Wealthy Gardener. I think I like a little bit more of the philosophy behind creating and building wealth, in all aspects of your life. So that was one of my favorites. And then I think just, to pay respect to David's mother who passed away, I think that, just realizing your time is limited. So enjoy it. And it's not so much the success portion of it as being the end destination. All of a sudden when I reach this, I'm going to be a whole different person and different or whatever. I think it's just the journey of what you're accomplishing is way more valuable than that has to do with coming.
Which that basically leads into one of my other favorite books, The Alchemist.
Oh, yes.
Exactly what Chenoa said. It's all about the journey. He goes through all these different things through the desert to finally get to that end goal. And it's all about the journey and all the different experiences, and what you learn from those experiences will ultimately get you to where you want to be in life.
Yeah.
I love it.
So enjoy it. enjoy the journey, fall in love with it, be kind to people, spread love, all the good things, you know?
Yeah, that's good.
It's a fun one.
Do you guys have any places that you are like your go-to besides Waikapu? But
Besides the valley, our go-to, well, we're in Northern California, so the Napa Valley wineries.
We love Calistoga.
I actually first went to Calistoga with my grandmother, and so I feel like it's like a special spot. And David and I we have a favorite little hotel. It's like a little boutique hotel, nothing fancy, but just like, it's like our ultimate getaway. We can do like even overnight or a few nights without the kids, and we just love it.
Yep.
That's good. That's good.
in just one sentence, what would you whisper to your younger self?
I think you create your reality
Yeah. That's
within
good.
whatever scope you want. Dream big, something along those lines, you know? Go for what you want.
Fear is just an obstacle of where you want to get.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Guys, we'd like to wrap it up by saying we learn, we share, we grow. What is something that you've learned recently that kind of gave you pause and helped you to kind of see life a little differently?
See, at least for me, my experience is like life is going by so fast. And I think we don't. And at least for me, what I do a lot is I mentor a lot of younger people that don't necessarily see things from the lens that I see things. And I try to just open their minds to think differently about life and to look as an opportunity and not look at it from such a closed lens. So I always feel that we have a responsibility I'll just say it, as educated people to mentor and teach that next generation the things that we were brought up with and the things that we were taught. And so I'm just a big advocate at always mentoring younger people and showing them the ropes and being a positive light that, they can accomplish things. They just have to have the right mindset.
You guys are amazing and have dropped so much good information, and we appreciate your time with us. If our audience wants to connect with you, bring you business, another coffee shop, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah. And we're investing out of state. So
Hey.
Yeah, I mean that's the other thing. Like we have a wholesale company. We have a bagel shop. They ever come to Chico, come eat bagels. And we're all over the United States, but you can find us on Instagram at Chenoa and David. You can find us on Facebook, Chenoa and David. And they can connect with us there, and we'll be happy to answer any questions that they have regarding anything regarding real estate or life.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. You guys are amazing. Have an amazing day.
yes.
No problem. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good one.
Thanks for being part of the family today. If you want a closer look at our journey through real life, business, and all the wild adventures, follow us on Instagram at Our Family Invest. And for free resources to help you on your own path, head to ourfamilyinvest.com.
If you like this episode, send it to a friend. And if you're feeling extra generous, drop us a quick review. It really helps us grow this community. Thank you so much for being part of our family today. We really, truly appreciate you.